we are going to throw you a bit of a curveball. Today, we are going to talk about non-strategy games for strategy gamers. But before we do that, how's everybody doing? How you doing, Al?
I'm good, thanks. I'm in a good mood today, which is
Oh, good.
a novel experience for me.
What a happy... Al's got his good day for the month out of the way. Great. What about you, Jackie? How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Joe?
Excellent. Excellent. It's sunny and bright here. Loving life. Okay, so let's talk about some non-strategy games. Let's start with Albus today. What do you got for us?
So this was quite difficult because when I looked at my Steam library, I looked at my gaming history, and I was like, well, Red Alert was one of the first PC strategy games that I played, and my Steam library is almost exclusively strategy games. You know about my Stellaris. I want to come back to that because that's and ask a question on that. But you know about my Stellaris obsession and
Stellaris
my
again.
city
It's a
skylines
strategy game, dude.
obsession. This is what I mean. I seem to play strategy games completely. Other than at the moment, I'm completely obsessed with Space Marine 2. However, the first game I'm going to bring up, which I think a non-strategy gamer would enjoy, is TIE Fighter from 1994. Jack, did you exist in 1994?
That was a concept.
You was a
Piston Hearts.
you had the concept of a deal. Yeah,
They started planning at that time, and then they had a few more years.
Yeah. So Jack wasn't even in early access when my first pick was released. TIE Fighter 1994. I love this game. I played this game for like 3 or 4 joysticks. I can't measure it in weeks, months, years. I have measured it in the amount of joysticks which I broke playing this game. It is well, as you can imagine, everyone knows what a TIE Fighter is. It's the little bow tie shaped ship from Star Wars. And in this game, you play as a pilot in the Imperial Navy and you fly missions for the Imperial Navy against the Rebel Alliance. And it is my favorite game of all time. And I was thinking, how would this appeal to a strategy gaming fan? And then it kind of hit me. It's like, this is a game where it is so deeply tactical. You're given a mission. You then have to go and achieve this mission with limited resources, exactly like you'd expect in a tactical RTS or a real-time tactics game. But not only that, but you also have economy in it. Now stick with me on this one because I know that might sound weird because you're flying a spaceship, but in later games, in later missions, you have shields, engine, and lasers to manage. You can't have power to all of them all at the same time. You need to get somewhere fast. You stop using your you remove power for your lasers in order to increase power to your engines. So there's always this necessity to balance what you are using your economy on. And I just thought this is actually a really great tactical game, except it is essentially an action flight sim. Jack's probably never played it because he was, as you said, a concept then when this came out, and now I
A
feel super
twinkle in
old.
his parents' eye.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever play it, Joe?
I think I did. I was looking at it while you were talking about it, and I'm pretty sure I played it and beat it. I don't remember having to manage the resources, but I do remember playing through the missions. It made me instantly want to look for a remake with more modern graphics, but that might ruin it. Who knows? But it does
There
sound
is
like
one.
something that would be very fun. There is?
Hmm. Yeah. There's the TIE Fighter Total Conversion mod for,
Hmm.
I forget the game that it's for. It could be X-Wing Alliance. So it's fully updated, and they recently released the next version of that mod, and it is really, really good. I absolutely thoroughly
Interesting.
recommend it. I think you can get it on Steam and get it on GOG for just a couple of quid now because it's so old.
Yeah.
I don't have them anymore, but I had it on floppy disk.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how old this game is. I had it on floppy disk, and it might have been 4 discs.
I think
So
I
we're
played it
going.
on a Sega Genesis. I'm pretty sure I did.
Oh, it can't be the same game then, man. This was you needed a keyboard for this. You must be
You
thinking of
think
a different
so?
game. Oh, definitely, yeah. You needed a keyboard and a joystick to be able to play this. The it was it wasn't like an arcade shooter. It was a flight sim. Think Microsoft Flight Simulator, but set in space. Jack is our resident Star Wars fan. I think he should try it as well.
Did you ever play Star Wars Squadrons, Al?
No,
I've been really close to buying it a bunch of times.
I think I did actually buy it. I think if I check my library, I think it is in my Steam library, and I did buy it. But then I was so in love with Tie Fighter in 1994 that I think playing anything which is a spiritual successor or a homage to that particular game, I think it would ruin it for me. I'm aware of it. It's if it is in my library, it's certainly on my wish list. But no, I
Mm.
haven't yet.
I was gonna get it for the virtual reality headset. I have a Quest 2, and I was gonna get it to do like a arcadey flight sim situation. I thought it might be fun for that, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, this the original game. It isn't arcadey at all, and I think that
Mm.
I think we're almost beyond the point where games are made seriously anymore. That sounds trash. That sounds crass. But I think that we're at the point where we don't. Games are made purely now to dazzle. Tie Fighter wasn't a game that dazzled you. You start the game, and the first thing you're doing is you fly training missions, like through an obstacle course, and the tutorial was just incredible. The tutorial was as long as a game is now. You learned targeting, you learned shield management, you learned engine management, you learned how to assign your wingmen to different targets or get them to hold back or get them to support you. You learned how to call in reinforcements. The entire tutorialization of this game was incredible. I just don't think they do it like they did back then. That's probably why I haven't picked up Squadrons, because I think I would just be overwhelmingly disappointed because of what I got to experience 32 years ago. Is that how long it
Yeah.
was?
Holy
32 years
smokes.
ago. Yeah.
I think I
Christ.
played it at a friend's house then. Or I did have a computer. It's possible I played it on
Mhm.
computer because I feel like I played this game.
But if you haven't, then you should. And if you don't want to play the original, like I say, there is the TIE Fighter
Hmm.
Total Conversion mod, and I'll make sure there's a link in the description for anybody who wants to go and check that out because it is superb.
I could probably get it for like 3 or 4 double cheeseburgers. No problem.
For one double
One?
cheeseburger, yeah, it's
So much more joy out of that than a double cheeseburger.
you might need 5 double cheeseburgers to get a decent joystick to be able to play it because you need a joystick to be able to play this game.
I might have a joystick.
I think it is a perfect pick for if you have a strategy game and you want something which is slightly more action because it isn't chaotic, it isn't panicky, it isn't like a twitchy sort of game. It is meaningful, it is thought about, it is thought out. It is consistent. The systems, you have to understand those systems the same as what you do in any kind of 4X or grand strategy game. You need to understand how the systems work before you can be effective at playing the game. And this is exactly the same thing. And the thing that I think I loved most about it was because as a strategy gamer, you're used to controlling. Let's say, for example, if you're playing a Star Wars strategy game, you are the Empire and you have TIE fighters that um, you can deploy into battle onto the map or whatever. This Did you ever play Commander Conquer Renegade, where it was like the CNC FPS game?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess in a similar sort of situation, this is a case of with that game where you stepped into the shoes of a GDI trooper and went and shot the Brotherhood of Nod troopers. In this game, you take the position of a Star Wars strategy game, but you become one of the troops. So
Now, hold on. Was Renegade the one that got canceled and never fully released? What was the one that got canceled and never fully released? I played that one.
No, it got released. It got released.
There was one that they decided, was it Ghost or something?
Possibly. I don't know.
No. Anyways, I interrupted your thought. Please continue.
Well, it probably was the end of the thought because
Okay, let's
my
move
thoughts
on then.
don't go on for very long, not at this age. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to try something which is not a strategy game but still has serious elements of tactics, then TIE Fighter is such good fun and well worth your time.
And it is a shame that they don't remake those games because, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, I think it was 2023 or 2024 was the big one where they used like a procedural tech to like map the Earth and let you fly anywhere. They did a number of tie-in like cross promotions. Like they had the Dune ornithopter in there, and they had like a Halo um, pelican in there that you could fly. And I don't know how in depth they were or how deep the simulations went for like the tie-in materials, but I'm pretty sure they had all the little knobs and switches in there for you to use for like flight controls. So they could easily adapt that kind of tech for like a TIE Fighter remake. And also the following year, right, in order to build on what they had done with the previous flight simulator where they did the whole Earth, was they focused on job specific like aircraft. So they did like paramedic helicopters or like search and rescue planes and stuff like that. So you were using specific commands and you had like missions and like a whole like you had missions specific to every type of aircraft. I mean that kind of thing is so easily adaptable for something like TIE Fighter. They could have easily had at least like a tie-in update for that, or it's a shame.
Probably, but I think that this wasn't just a game where you flew. And to be honest with you, you're just it's in like a first person view, and it's just a starfield in front of you, and that's it. So it wasn't pretty, but the systems and the progression just really remind me of quality strategy games, just the way that you have to move through. So you start in a TIE fighter and you have laser cannons and engines, and that's it. And then you move to a TIE bomber, and now you've got missiles and bombs you can use as well. So it adds different elements all the time. And then you move into the assault gunboat, so you have hyperdrive, so you can jet into places or jump into places and jump out again, and shields to manage as well. And as they increased the technology of the craft that you were flying, they increased the threat that you were facing as well. So yeah, you went from being one TIE fighter in a squad of six facing down Y wings and X wings and A wings to flying a TIE Defender, which was the Chad of Star Wars fighters with shields, advanced concussion missiles, laser beams, ion cannons, taking out capital ships, taking out Mon Calamari cruisers. So the progression was incredible. And you got to fly with Darth Vader.
Let's end on that. We can't talk about a game from 1994 any longer. But you sold it well. I'm looking into it. Okay. Good job. Al starts top of the list. What do you got for us, Jack? What's your contribution?
Okay, I'm going to start with the lesser of my two games. It's an RPG game that came out somewhat recently. It's a game by Bethesda Game Studios. It's called Starfield. So a little tie back to what Al just said about being in front of him out of the screen of the TIE Fighter. Starfield is an RPG game through and through. A lot of people, if you ask them about it, right, like Bethesda Game Studios, I love Bethesda games. I love the Elder Scrolls. I love Fallout. Starfield was their big jump into a new IP that they hadn't done in over 25 years. They hadn't really worked with a new IP outside of Fallout, someone else's IP that they now own, and Elder Scrolls. Something they introduced in Fallout 4 back in 2015 into an RPG game that wasn't as common at the time was a base building and town building mechanic in their settlement system. It was divisive at the time. I loved it. I loved the settlement building. I loved the entire mechanic of managing the city, of like managing your town, of like progressing through the blueprints you had available, all of the ways they integrated that system into like weapon modifications. But how do I sell this to a strategy gamer? Well, Starfield expanded on those settlement mechanics through and through. If you're a strategy gamer and you like resource management, you like progression through not just base building, but settlement building, if you like people management, if you like engaging within economy, and if you also like the adjacent paths that you have to take as you progress through the game, right? Starfield is a first and third person RPG game where you fly a ship through over 1,000 different, hundreds of solar systems with over 1,000 planets, each that has their own procedural generation and resources and locations to explore and quests to do, right? It's an RPG game. The thing about Starfield that I think captures a lot of people that don't usually play RPG games, and especially strategy gamers, is the ship that you fly in Starfield is fully customizable. There are individual pieces like Legos that you snap together. They cost money. They range in price in the economy based on the aesthetics, but also like the functionality of the pieces that you're purchasing to put into your ship. You get to click and clack your Legos together until you have a shape that you prefer, and then you get to fly your ship personally from planet to planet. And when you land on a planet, you always have the option in most locations on any planet to place down a marker and start building a base. And this base ranges from like a little house for yourself to a larger settlement that features tons of different settlers, scientists, researchers, workers. You can assign them jobs. They're able to directly contribute to your income, which then goes back into the pieces you use to build your ship, the way you modify your weapons, and the way that you engage with the larger role-playing game, the story, the narrative, the side quests, the locations you go to, the cities you can explore. So all of that is great. But to go back to the main thing here, there's this entire settlement building aspect. You can establish supply lines between your settlements. So if you build multiple bases on different planets that feature different resources, you can create supply lines. Those supply lines will travel from base to base, collect the resources that are being mined or gathered at that base on that planet, bring them back to another base where you can use the base on that planet to refine the materials you've collected from others into items that then get transferred into the economy. So more sellable items, things like, for example, if it was like a clear gameplay loop, you can establish a settlement on one planet and harness and gather the resources from that planet, from the workers you've assigned there, based on their skills and the progression that you've unlocked by building things. You can have a transport ship bring those resources to a different planet, refine those resources into something like a pharmaceutical good, and then sell that back into the economy for you to make money, and then that's the gameplay loop. So it's not the most fleshed out strategy feature, but I think if you're looking for like an RPG game that scratches the itch of a modern game, if you like space, if you like playing with Legos to build a spaceship, if you like arcadey space flight, if you just like role playing games, it's a wonderful game to try with this like deeper strategy mechanic than a lot of first and third person games will give you. Like I know in Kingdom Come Deliverance, a great RPG game, and they had their own town building mechanic where you manage the buildings and the economy. I found that extremely inaccessible to get into compared to something like Starfield or Fallout 4, where they just make it the seamless button press into town building.
I'm going to sound like a grumpy old gamer here, but I've never really enjoyed Bethesda games. I don't know why. I mean, I have. I think I have most of the Fallout games, and I've tried them, and I just couldn't get into it. And I looked at Starfield when it came out, and I think it was quite well received by most people, by the press as well as the audience. But it was also just described as it was Fallout in space. But what you've described there, there's a lot going on, which is strategy adjacent, isn't there?
Yeah, compared to something like Fallout 4 introduced the strategy mechanic with town building, but the divisiveness came from the fact that they wove it deeply into the narrative of the game. It was something you had to interact with, and it alienated people who only wanted to play a role playing game. So people who were used to Fallout, used to other Bethesda games, who at the time dominated the market in a lot of ways, fell out of favor for people who weren't interested in those strategy adjacent mechanics. But if you're somebody who likes those things, not only is Starfield less interwoven narratively into those mechanics, but it gives them the freedom to expand that deeper for people who liked those things. And so I think that if you're a strategy gamer, if you wanted to ignore the story, if you wanted to ignore a lot of the side quests, if you wanted to ignore the space magic and the larger narrative that they're trying to tell in the game, you have this very interesting base building mechanic. And the beauty of Bethesda games, outside of many other RPGs, is their accessibility for a modding community. And so the moment you get hooked on the base gameplay of Starfield and its base building and strategy mechanics, you then have I mean, their games are some of the most modded in the world, just objectively. They dominate Nexus mods and they dominate many, many other third-party modding sites. And they also have their own modding platform now. So getting into something like that just gives you a world of possibilities. And now they have Starfield particularly has a very, very popular and very, very quickly developed, like it's still rapidly being developed, total conversion mod for Starfield that turns the entire thing into Star Wars. It's changed the entire language across the game into the galactic standard language for Star Wars. It's replaced every background NPC with one of the alien races across the Star Wars franchise, and many, many other things.
Now you mention it, I've seen this Star Wars model. I was like, oh, I must buy Starfield now. And then I probably went back to playing a strategy game. But it's my birthday soon, so you can buy it for me.
Yeah, I'll have to buy it for myself on PC first, but
I'm excited for you, Al. You're always needing a new game. Get you off a Space Marine. Ugh. Jeez. Okay, I think that was another good sell. Thank you for that, Jack. I have never once been tempted to play Starfield. The reception I felt like was poor, right? And I played Skyrim. I liked Skyrim. I played Oblivion. I liked Oblivion. But Starfield just seemed. I heard so much about space being empty in Starfield.
Was I wrong? I thought it was really well received. Have I got that mixed up with something else?
Starfield itself is pretty divisive, I would say. Starfield was possibly my most anticipated game of all time. And it is the one Bethesda game. I won't say the one. It is the Bethesda game from modern times that someone who has played almost every Bethesda game that they've released, I did not finish the game, and I have stopped going back to it compared to other games as often. But that is to say that if you like the strategy mechanics, it might be enough to bring you into it. And if you don't have a lot of expectations for other RPG games, because it's not something you usually go into as a strategy gamer, it might make that a little bit more accessible to you, because Bethesda usually fails at making great RPG games. So it's kind of pretty accessible for somebody who never plays RPG games. But if you like them, it's so middling that it might turn you off.
Bethesda don't make great RPG games, don't they? Only make RPG games.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like sometimes you have people like some companies make strategy games only, but they don't make great strategy games. But you still play them because no one else makes strategy games like them.
Yeah, the Bethesda games are so unique in their leveling system and their open worldness, and people like to get lost in the side quest and discover. Like in Skyrim, you could discover a sect of vampires in a dungeon somewhere, and there's a chance your friend is never going to find them, and you and your friend can talk about it or something like that. And Starfield, from what I understood, is the most empty feeling of these Bethesda games. People like having the world filled, and Starfield is so big. It's the classic deep as a puddle, wide as the ocean game, So,
but space is big. I mean, that's
space
is big. Space is empty.
Is the point?
Yeah, but space is empty.
Yeah.
Yeah, in favor of the argument I was making too about the strategy mechanics, I know we'll move on, but like I was saying, yes, space is big and it's empty. And in 1,000+ planets that they're promising for the game, statistically, a majority of them, realistically, because Starfield is a beautiful game. It used real data from NASA. It uses real locational information that we have from star systems and the data from their stars to know which planets could be habitable. It actually models the gravity of the systems based on the distance from the sun. I mean, the game is beautiful. It uses real-time shadows based on the atmosphere of the planets from the makeup of the data we have to the stars that make up their solar systems. But that is to say, they leaned into the number of planets available for the strategy mechanic of building a base. It cost them on the RPG side because in order to make every one of those planets have something interesting, They use procedural generation to randomly place things on them, which means as an RPG gamer, if you don't care about the base building part, you're just going to run into a bunch of the same locations and buildings with the same dead bodies and the same notes with the same stories, and that's completely unrealistic and completely immersion breaking, and I understand. But as a strategy gamer, you find a planet that happens to have a group of resources that you haven't found on any other planet, and it's really, really pretty because it's in a really good spot. And it's also random that that spot ever gets generated. No two people are ever going to have the same location necessarily to go to build a base. So oftentimes you'll have a unique location that's entirely unique to you, and you get to build a base there, and it's very cool.
Okay, my first game I'm going to suggest, and maybe my only, based on time. We'll see. We've gone a little long here, which is great. My first game I'm going to talk about is, I guess it depends on your perspective, whether or not you think this is my big hitter game or my under the radar game. I guess it has to be my under the radar game. I'm going to talk about We Who Are About to Die. This is a roguelike gladiator combat game that is a little janky, but it's got some good physics. The combat is really fun, and there's a lot of depth and strategy hidden in this game. No two runs are the same. You may have a run that lasts 15 minutes. You may have a run that lasts 3 hours. You never know. And there are all these things you can do to make it different. You can change what your background is. Like maybe you're a thief, maybe you're an ex-soldier, maybe you're a slave. You have all these backgrounds you could have, and every background is different, right? Like ex-soldier, you got a good start. You're going to be powerful from the start. Ex-slave, more of a challenge. Indebted merchant, more of a challenge, right? All of these, you have all these options. What you pick will change your stats. And throughout the game, you have a starting weapon. But if you get into a fight and someone drops a weapon or the crowd throws in a weapon, you can grab that weapon and start fighting with that. But if you want to be able to keep that weapon for the next round, you got to purchase an upgrade. And the way you earn money is by picking harder and harder fights. Like you have to pick the right fight. You may, and they have all these different, you have tons of different options here. You could pick a fight where it's going to be you against 4 other champions, and the payout's really good, and you're thinking to yourself, if I win this, I can purchase all these great upgrades and I might have a chance to beat the game. Or you could pick a fight that's a ladder competition, almost like a tournament, where you just have to keep fighting and it's last man standing eventually from a group of 20 guys. And it's all randomized. You get to pick from a certain amount of matches each time, and you just try to see how long you can go. And it's a really, really interesting game. Now, I don't have tons and tons of hours. I have somewhere between 10 and 20 hours on this game, but it's perfect for a strategy gamer who wants to try something different, likes the idea of a gladiator game, or has liked, Spartacus or something in the past and wants to give it a shot. What do you think?
There's a huge management aspect to this, isn't there?
A lot of strategy in the management option.
The Steam description, it says fight and strategize. So the third word is strategy. So there's clearly a lot of strategy involved in this. So in terms of is like inventory management and things like that involved as well?
Not hugely. You have some, right? Like you can choose your weapons and stuff like that, but it's more like you use your winnings to purchase things you can outfit yourself with, right? But you're not carrying health potions or anything like that. You've got what you've got.
Because I'm sure I saw a game where you managed a ludus, like a gladiator school.
Yeah, there is one like that, but that's not what this is. That would be
Yeah.
very cool, but that's not what this is. Now you
Well, that would
can
be
make it so
that would
you
be a
start
strategy
with an
game, wouldn't it?
entourage. You can pick an upgrade where you get to start with dudes backing you up in matches, and that's helpful. But sometimes they suck and they get in your way, so it just depends.
And you do all of the moves and things. So in some respects,
Yeah,
is it like a beat 'em up as well in some respects? But it isn't
yeah.
just focused on the combat. There's the extraneous systems behind the scene.
It's like a third person fighter where with a bunch of strategy in the strategy layer.
It's not. I, I'm not going to try it.
That's okay.
You know how I did such an awesome job of selling TIE Fighter and Jack did such an awesome
Yeah.
job of selling Starfield?
There's
You've let me down there. You've let me down there,
You're
Joe.
crazy. I guarantee someone's listening right now and they're like, I'm definitely playing that game. Not you, not old Fuddy Duddy. You're playing Space Marine 2.
Yeah, but it's not one of the games that I'm going to be bringing up in this episode, because it isn't particularly strategic. It isn't particularly tactical. It's a third-person shooter, and therefore doesn't deserve a place in this short list.
The other thing about this game that I think is fun is when you're actually in your matches, the better moves you pull off, the more money you earn and the more prestige you earn. And you can use prestige and money to buy more things. So, like, if you get a weapon that slices off lots of limbs of your opponents, you'll get more prestige and more money because people will like that. They'll go crazy for that. So, that's another added little layer.
That's probably accurate to the setting because, of course,
I would assume so.
gladiatorial games was all about spectacle, wasn't it? You mentioned Spartacus. I love that show. I think it was great. I've watched it. I've watched through the entire thing several times, and the Russell Crowe movie Gladiator is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I love the setting. Rome Total War is one of my favorite games of all time. So the setting really appeals to me, and it was always the thing where I think it was Oliver Reed's character said to Maximus, don't kill people too quickly.
Yeah.
Let the crowd enjoy the work that you do. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He didn't actually use those words.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the same sort of thing. If you use certain ways of dispatching your enemies, then the crowd's going to enjoy that more and you're going to rise in prestige quicker.
And you know how you said don't go too fast? In this game also you start to lose prestige if you take too long.
Right. So there's a sweet spot
So,
to manage.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. I'm still not buying it.
That's okay. Hey, not everybody's got taste. I'm just kidding.
This is true. This is true. Not everybody does.
I think, well, the other thing about this game, I'm done selling after this. It's not very expensive. It's like $20 normally.
How many double cheeseburgers is that?
It depends on where you live and what kind of double cheeseburgers, but probably about 10.
Yeah.
TIE
Fighter is cheaper.
You can catch it on sale. Well, of course, TIE Fighter is cheaper. It's from 1994. Jack wasn't even alive.
I know. Isn't that weird?
Okay, you talked smack about mine. Dazzle us with your second, and don't take 35 minutes this time, please.
Okay.
Let's 5 to 7 if you can.
Well, just cut me off, man. Cut me off. But this is going to be.
I don't have the heart to do that to someone so old.
TIE Fighter is my favorite game of all time. The next game I'm going to pick is the greatest game of all time. Half-Life 2.
Never played it.
What? You've never played Half-Life 2?
Never played it.
Okay, you will after this. You genuinely, you will. Half-Life 2 is a first-person shooter. You like first-person shooters?
No.
You will, because you will, I promise. It's not an obvious pick to go FPS from strategy. I absolutely get that. But Half-Life 2 rewards the same sort of thought and temperament as you are required to have to be successful with strategy games. It isn't a twitch shooter. It isn't a fast reaction shooter. It is a pacing and planning sort of game. It's very linear in terms of it's a single player story campaign, but again, you are given an objective, and that objective can just be to get to the end of the level. You are required to plan your way through the level. If you just run in all guns blazing, you're going to die. So you need to choose the right weapons. You need to make sure that you've got the right ammunition. You need to make sure that you approach enemies in the right way. You can't just run in all guns blazing. And I think that it's really thoughtful in the way that it plays. It's a much slower pace. Now, I hate games which are just relying on reflexes. Half-Life 2 is the best first-person shooter of all time, and some do actually say it's the greatest game ever made. And it is the thinking man's FPS.
If that exists.
I've just told you it exists.
I'm just kidding.
Have you played it, Jack?
Technically, I played Half-Life 1 and I need to move on to Half-Life 2, but I was right at the end of Half-Life 1 and I was playing them in order because I've been playing most of Valve's games. But that said, I'm pretty experienced with Half-Life 2. I have to agree with Al, right? The premise of Half-Life 2, for anybody who doesn't know that the people who make Steam used to make games, their magnum opus was a game that was basically a first-person shooter, but it was just actually a puzzle game in disguise, like most of their games. It is, I mean, Valve is a bunch of people who go to Ivy League schools and are multidisciplined in the most insane respects. I mean, the composer of Valve's games was one of the guys who invented the CGI mechanics for modern CGI and did the battle at the beginning of the Lord of the Rings series. And he makes the music for Valve's games. So those guys are crazy, and they decided to reinvent how physics worked in video games, and then you get Half-Life 2, a game where using physics and throwing things and moving things around with a gravity gun is a first-person shooter game, and it's also a puzzle game, and it rewards, like I was saying, the part of your brain that is problem solving. But I think it's an interesting choice because that's also the problem with Valve's games is that they have a cultural value, right, in the way that they were made, like the history of them and the way that they were developed, like as a work of art, like a craft piece. They're like a tech demo, but they don't really hold, like beyond that point, their grasp is limited because like narratively, maybe I'll catch a bunch of flack for this, but like narratively, as an intellectual property, they just have some pretty weak intellectual properties.
You won't catch flack from me because I agree, and I think that Valve understood that, which is why Gordon Freeman, the protagonist, he doesn't speak. I really love that approach because, okay, think of like Duke Nukem. Now we're going back to that 92 or something like that, or 94. So again, I'm showing my age. Duke Nukem was this all-American action hero. It was all about chicks and guns, and he was just this quintessential action movie star. And you played as Duke Nukem. Half-Life 2, you play as you because Gordon Freeman, the protagonist, he doesn't have any lines. He doesn't speak to anybody. He essentially has no personality. So your criticism of the lack of narrative actually does ring true. But that's through design rather than a failing on behalf of Valve when they created Half-Life 2. You assume the position of Gordon Freeman. You approach the puzzles, the tasks, the missions, whatever they may be, as you would as an individual, rather than as Gordon Freeman would, because you do become the protagonist in those games. So it isn't necessarily a criticism to say that they are weak narratively. I think the story's great. I think the setting's great. I think the 7-day war, the Combine taking over the entire planet in the space of 7 days, is a fantastic science fiction setting that I think anybody who enjoys strategy games which are based around Earth versus the Martians or Earth versus aliens will just really embrace the setting. But the reason why I think it appeals to me as a strategy gamer is that you are required to be methodical. And that is exactly what's required of you to play strategy games. You have to think about what you're doing. You have to employ a methodology when it comes to playing this game. The planning, the tactics that are required in order to overcome some of the bigger enemies. It requires coordinating with NPCs. It requires, as you said, it's very, very physics orientated. This isn't a game for stupid people. And I say that in the nicest possible way. You've got to be intelligent to be able to play and enjoy Half-Life 2 in the way that it was intended to be enjoyed. But the point you made there about the gravity gun, I think that there's one level, Ravenholm, which is like a horror zombie sort of level, and you have no guns other than the gravity gun. And the gravity gun, you pick up saw blades with the gravity gun and you fire them and chop zombies in half. And it's just brilliant. There's nothing strategic about that. I just think it's a
Just
fantastic
trying to say we
gameplay
can't play the game,
experience.
Joe.
No, I'm saying you haven't. Well, you have because you're clever. Joe hasn't. Say what you will about that.
I think I did watch a friend play it once. I can't remember. Did Valve do Team Fortress too?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I played that. I played that game, but
I did want to build off of what Al was saying though. If you can handle it, right? So Valve only makes games when they feel like they have a technological angle because that's just who they are. They had to reinvent. They're never going to make Half-Life 3 unless they can reinvent the magic of how the technology makes Half-Life 2 the game that Al and I just described. But they did it, right? They made the greatest, in my opinion, what is like the magnum opus of VR games. With
yeah.
the sequel to Half-Life 2, they made Half-Life Alyx. I mean, I dare if you haven't played Half-Life 2 or Half-Life 1 or only play strategy games and you want to play that game that Al just described where you have to be methodical and think ahead and figure out puzzles, I just dare you to watch somebody play Half-Life Alyx for like 5 or 10 minutes on YouTube and not get absorbed because a lot of VR games do this kind of stuff. But Half-Life Alyx is a full narrative-driven first-person shooter VR game where you hear zombies in the next room, these little head crabs that crawl around and jump on you and kill you. They eat your head and then make you a zombie. And then you have nothing in the room to prepare yourself except for a chair. And then you pick up the chair and you have to go in there and start smacking little crabs on the ground away. Or as they jump at you, you have to catch them with the chair and throw them down a pit. You know, like that is problem solving. That's the part that scratches the part of your brain I was talking about where you have to think ahead. You have to realize like all I have is a broken bottle and or like a or you say I have a bottle and a chair. What am I supposed to do? Valve rewards you for grabbing the bottle with liquid and smashing it on a table and watching the liquid spill everywhere realistically and then using the broken glass to protect yourself.
You know, I have played Half-Life Alyx, but I played it for an hour and then I was like, this game is too good. I don't think I'll be able to play any more virtual reality games after I've played this game. So I stopped and I was like, let me get through more of my backlog. And I just haven't gone back yet, which is crazy to say. So I need to, because I did quite enjoy that game. I
Yeah,
did
the
feel a little
markers
lost
work.
because I haven't played the others.
The expo markers work on whiteboards in the game. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Valve will never make Half-Life 3. Never. Really, it's as simple as this, and I'll explain my thinking behind this. Half-Life 2 was superb, and people have been wanting Half-Life 3 for so long, and it's never going to happen because
They'll
Valve
never
is
live up to it.
essentially there is that the anticipation expectation on Half-Life 3 is bigger than what GTA 6 would be. People are desperate for GTA 6, and GTA 5 was a great game. Of course, it was. And the expectations that GTA 6 is going to be better. And if it isn't, it's essentially the death of Rockstar. You can't spend, was it 600 million, I think is the latest sort of money that they've spent on the development of GTA 6. You can't spend that level of money and not have a success. So there's a huge risk, there's a huge gamble. The same with Valve. They would need to invest the same level of money as what Rockstar have done with GTA 6 in order to make Half-Life 3 to the level that it's required to be in order to meet expectations. And that's a major risk for them. If you think most people who play games on PC, they buy their games on Steam. They have essentially they have a monopoly on the whole gaming market. And every game that gets sold, Valve takes 30% of that. When GTA 6 gets released on PC, which is a year, I think, after its console release, Valve will take 30% of the price of every single copy of GTA 6 which is sold on Steam. Why do they need to make games? There's risk involved in investing all that money in making games. There's no risk in not making them anymore. Valve is no longer a developer. They are a storefront and will remain so forever, I think. Half-Life Alyx, as Jack said, Valve will do something if they can exploit new technology. So there's VR. Let's try it. They have the amount of money that they have. You think it must be a really small company. They don't require loads of staff in order to manage a storefront, because having built Steam pages, I do all the work as the customer. I pay for the right to have my game on Steam, and then I build the page myself. Valve don't do it. So they have minimal overheads, and they take 30% of everything sold. Why would you risk making a game and risking it fail when you don't need to?
Okay, let's move to the next one, but let's all agree they should maybe do a movie. Do we want to see a Half-Life movie?
No.
I mean, there's a story, no story.
I want to. Okay, just me. Simple Joe wants to see a movie. Okay, Jacko, what's your second game? Al went a little long again.
So this one might either seem super obvious or it might just be that niche. And similarly, right? We'll get into it. My next game is Pathfinder Kingmaker, right? So for anybody who does not know what Pathfinder Kingmaker is, right? So it's a CRPG. A lot of people, when they get asked what's a good game for someone who is a strategy gamer that doesn't usually play other genres, right? They always like to say, "Oh, CRPGs. They're RPG games. You know, they get you into the games that you probably played as a kid or that you didn't end up playing at that same time, like Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, things like that, right?" But people love to say things like Baldur's Gate 3, or they like to say Pillars of Eternity. Okay, so we'll go through the scaling of this so it makes sense. Baldur's Gate 3 has a camp system. You're playing Dungeons and Dragons, like at a table with your friends, and you have a camp that you go back to heal up, and you can manage the camp kind of by collecting food. Okay? Pillars of Eternity is a CRPG. It's basically a different version of Dungeons and Dragons like you play at the table with your friends. And in Pillars of Eternity 1, you have a castle that you find that you can manage and upgrade over time. And in Pillars of Eternity 2, you have a boat that you find that you can upgrade and manage over time. But that's kind of where that stops. Pathfinder Kingmaker is unjustly discredited because it is basically a strategy game. Pathfinder Kingmaker is a CRPG game. It's basically Dungeons and Dragons. Pathfinder is Dungeons and Dragons 3E, 3rd edition. It's 3.5 edition with modifications to make it a new lineage of Dungeons and Dragons called Pathfinder. And in Pathfinder Kingmaker, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, but at the same time, at the beginning of the game, you become a barony, and then you're told that for the rest of the game, as you do all the little side quests and big story, and you do all the Baldur's Gate 3, all of the Pillars of Eternity RPG stuff, you travel with companions, you collect things in your inventory, you cast spells, you fight skeletons. You also go back to your barony, and you claim regions, manage your economy. I think there's like 12 different stats, including unruliness of your people. You have to manage your economy, your divinity, you have to manage like the buildings that get built. There's literally a city building mechanic, and then it literally grows until it is an entire kingdom. That is why it is called Pathfinder Kingmaker. It is literally a strategy game. If you look at it on Steam, though, it's listed as, these are the tags: RPG, party-based RPG, fantasy, CRPG, isometric. No mention of strategy right off the bat on the storefront. If you scroll through the photos on Steam, you literally see the city building mechanic. And there are people who complain about this game because this game is massive. Hundreds of hours of content, of RPG content, fighting skeletons, doing quests. And it's complicated. People complain all the time about how hard this game is. Yes, it's so hard. But here's the funny part. If you really look at the people who are complaining about how hard the game is, most of the Reddit posts and forum posts about how hard Pathfinder is come from people who don't like strategy games, and they're saying, why am I failing the game because my empire fails? And everybody who gives the advice or says the game is fun says, I love grand strategy games. And in this game, I have to appoint counselors. It's literally just like Crusader Kings, but with an entire RPG where you manage a character in a party and then you go inside dungeons and fight people at the same time.
You know, I'm glad you brought this game up, because if you are a Reddit type person and watch gaming suggestions or something like that, someone will ask for this game all the time. Once a month, someone asks for this game, and the response is always Pathfinder Kingmaker, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, or to a lesser degree, Neverwinter Nights 2. Those are the games that do this, and it's a really unique feature. A lot of people love it. I'm actually really interested, but I'm going to play Kingmaker someday. I might actually own it. I just know how long it is, and I just don't know if I can.
Yeah, and this game is old enough, and it has a sequel. And like the thing about Owlcat as a developer is that they make these games, and even though the first game, like the enhanced edition, came out in 2018 on Steam, this game is on discount for like less than a double cheeseburger all the time. It's like literally 4 to 7 quid, like every other month. Every
And they
sale that
support
has
them
anything to
too.
do, yeah, absolutely. And all the money that went into the wonderful Pathfinder Kingmaker and Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, its sequel, they're now using it to make a third-person RPG, open world RPG game set in the Expanse universe, which is what everybody in the world was
Mhm.
asking for. So it's just like, what did they take our money and do? Exactly what we wanted anyways. So anyways, I
Well,
rest my case.
yeah, and they took it and made Rogue Trader, Al's
That's
game.
true.
They
Yeah, they made
did.
they made Warhammer Rogue Trader.
They did, and they're making if not a sequel, then certainly a follow up to that. Dark Heresy, I think it's called. And I love Rogue
Yeah.
Trader. I think it's a great game. And I wasn't aware that it was Owlcat who made Pathfinder. I think that you're right. The CRPG genre is almost to the point, Jack, that where you recommended us when you recommended Pathfinder, I was like, well, it's a bit too close to being classed as a non-strategy game. Um, but it's the same with Rogue Trade. There's so many strategy. There's tactical battles involved. There's team management. There's inventory management. There's ship battles in Rogue Trader. So it's almost like it's so strategy adjacent almost that it's like a cheat to include it as a non-strategy game. But of course, it is a non-strategy game, so I'm not criticizing you for picking it. I just wasn't aware that Owlcat were responsible for this. And I think that Rogue Trader is an absolutely fantastic Warhammer 40k game. And as you know, Joe and I love our Warhammer.
hmm it's a slam dunk for someone who likes strategy, wants to try something new, and has somehow not played it. Especially if you've somehow not played a CRPG, which I could see a strategy gamer being like, I don't play role playing games. Why would I do that? There's so much in these games.
Well, the other funny thing is that RPG gamers, people who like first person and third person RPG games from today, they play things like I mean, we have like the new Black Crimson Desert coming out. I'm excited for that. Love games like that. But they see something like a CRPG or like the old Baldur's Gates, which I'm playing through now, and they're like, oh, those games look so complicated and so difficult to manage all of the mechanics. Strategy gamers, I mean, come on, rise up. Where are you guys at? That's like the whole point is you don't get a tutorial and you don't understand how to play a game, and then you still bash your head against it until you've got 1,000 hours somehow, and you still figure stuff out from a Reddit post. That's exactly what Pathfinder and other CRPGs are.
Plus, if they're too complicated, just get a paladin, a fighter, and a sorcerer. You're fine. You're fine. Roll through, steamroll everything.
Okay, Joe, you've got 3 minutes.
I've got 3 minutes. Okay.
What's your final game? Because Jack talks too much. It's all Jack's fault.
I'd consider doing Baldur's Gate 3, but it was almost like Pathfinder where it was too obvious. Pathfinder's less obvious because Baldur's Gate 3 is an all-encompassing gargantuan giant of a game. And it's turn-based if you want it to be. So it's basically a strategy game. So what I did was I just looked through my Steam list. What do I play that's not strategy? Almost nothing. Almost everything I play is strategy or strategy adjacent. So I'm throwing out the only other game I've played a bunch of that is not strategy. Al's gonna hate it, which is a plus for me. It's Ark Survival Evolved, which is the coolest, most janky game you will ever play.
I love this game.
Okay. Yes. Haha. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, let me tell you about it. You wake up on a beach. You can design your character, but it doesn't matter. You'll look odd if you mess with it too much. You'll just make yourself look odd. But you wake up on a beach. You have basically just underwear, and there's dinosaurs everywhere, and you have to try to survive. You have to eat. You have to keep yourself warm. You have to make sure you don't get too warm. You have to cook food, build a base. The big thing they've got going for them in this game is you can tame the dinosaurs and they become your pets. And it really is cool. There's no other way to say it. It's cool. The first time you tame a megalodon and ride on the back of that thing and have it chomp down on whatever it runs into, it's really cool. I remember the first time I tamed a pack of raptors somehow. I somehow got my hands on like 3 raptors, and I felt like we could kill anything. I did. I was like, we can kill that brontosaurus. Let's do it. And we couldn't. We died. But it was fun on the way. The strategy comes from the base building and trying to survive. There's actually quite a lot of strategy too in all the different almost cheats you can come up with to tame the dinosaurs. Like you can build cages that you can run through, but dinosaurs can't, and get them stuck, and then you can tame them. Or you can get really into optimizing your pet levels and get really into optimizing pet stats and things like that. There's a lot of hidden strategy in the game. But really what it is dinosaurs are cool. I want more dinosaurs. And for me, I have something called thessalophobia, which makes me scared of deep water. And so for me, it's like a form of aversion therapy where I'm trying to make myself no longer be scared of deep water by taking my shark pet into deep water and getting terrified and leaving. Fun game all the way around. Have you guys played?
No. Why would it? Yeah, when I said I love this game, I was absolutely joking.
I knew it.
It's too colourful. There's too many flashing lights. So no, but from what you described there are some strategy elements involved, aren't there, in terms of the whole? And I think with a lot of these games, this game is like a survival crafting game. So you'll be managing your inventory. You'll be deciding on what route to take. You'll be deciding on what things to craft, how to make sure that you've got enough food to last you. So there's tactical elements involved in that, isn't there?
I came up with a plan once. There was this super powerful flying pet, and I had a less powerful flying pet, and I what I ended up doing was I told my less powerful pet to follow that one because as soon as you shoot it, it would run away. And then I shot my pet with a grappling gun and hung from my pet while I shot it with taming arrows. And the way to come up with those plans, there's a lot of strategy in that, you know? What about you, Jack? Have you played?
There's a 50% chance that Ark is my most played game of all time.
Yes. A man of taste.
Yeah, I mean your story rings so similar to me. I had thalassophobia, and I thought I was doing like aversion therapy. I would like max my character speed so that my
Mm-hmm.
character flew around like he would just run across solid land like as fast as possible. There used to be this thing in this game years ago where if you increased your oxygen stat for how long you could breathe underwater, it actually increased your movement speed in water too, and then you'd fly around like
Yeah.
underwater at the speed of light. You couldn't even load in the assets from the game, how fast you're moving. And I was like, oh, and it made me willing to play Subnautica, which would I think would be another good suggestion for a crafting game
Oh,
for
that's a
strategy
great
players. But
suggestion.
I thought I was so clever doing that, and then the developers added in a prehistoric colossal squid that grabs you and just eats you while you're underwater, and that was a terrible experience. But yeah, Ark is a fantastic game. I would want to point out, right? So they've re-released this game. I think Ark is a fantastic game. I think it has the potential for being one of the greatest like multimedia franchises. The main villain of Ark is played by David Tennant. He's a
Hmm.
fantastic voice actor.
Yeah.
The entire cast of like the animated TV show they did is fantastic. And then for whatever reason, like they floundered every time. But I wanted to say that if you're a solo player, like many strategy gamers are, Arc is extremely inaccessible to someone playing by themselves, unless you put in a lot of time and effort to figure out how to make the game accessible for somebody playing by themselves. You have to manually change stats, like you're setting up a Paradox game, like you have to change sliders at the beginning of a Stellaris game to set like how much of materials you collect whenever you break a single rock, and how often trees respawn in the world, and how fast dinosaurs can be tamed on the timer.
That's
And
the
if you
big
do
one.
not mess with those things, this game is a second job. If you play
Hmm.
on the game's official standard setting for rules, you will potentially sit there for literally 3 real life days trying to tame some dinosaurs. which is insane. And they
Yeah.
want you to do that so that you trade off shifts with other players in real life. I played this game so much multiplayer. We were strategizing. We had these two Russian guys that didn't speak English, and they lived in a houseboat, and we never saw them because they had opposite time zones to ours. And then they would just mass produce grenades so that we could go and throw grenades at people's houses to steal their stuff. And then,
When you
that
say
strategy.
houseboat, do you mean Ark houseboat or?
Yeah, at Ark Houseboat, they had a
Yes.
raft that they just put stone walls on a raft in a swamp so it doesn't connect to the ocean. They can't go anywhere in the boat. It was just a house made out of stone on a raft. And then all we would hear is just like they would be offline and their factory inside would still be producing grenades. You could just hear the little clink of the grenades getting deposited in chests. Then we'd wake up, we'd go to the mailbox they have, we'd grab the grenades, and then we'd go throw it at new people's wooden houses and then take all their shit, bring it back, and then they would use it to make more grenades. But you play that game, you wake up one morning, and everything you've ever loved, all the dinosaurs you've tamed, are dead.
They're all dead.
Because some other
Yep.
Russian group comes on while you're asleep, and then they kill everything that you love, and then they leave you a message. They write a sign right in front of you, so when you wake up, they're like, "You suck, loser," and then that's what you wake up to. So it's the flow of Arc. You need to be prepared
That's
to
the
lose
beauty.
everything you've worked on for hundreds of hours in a strategy game when you wake up one morning in Arc.
It sounds terrible.
It was terrible. And I could never do it now. You have to clock out. Literally, you have to you have withdrawal symptoms. You have to get rehabilitated, and then you stop playing that game.
Okay. Before we finish, there's a couple of questions I want to ask then. The first one is it fair to say that there's an element of strategy in almost every single game that there is out there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Most.
Okay, not every game, but most games, there's an element of strategy involved, or if not strategy, there's an element of tactics involved, isn't there? Even a racing game, for example. You're thinking about tires and fuel, or whatever it might be. So that was question one. Thank you for the very, very short answers. Appreciated. Question two. I mentioned it at the start of the episode when I mentioned Stellaris. Now, I had a discussion with somebody who said that again, paraphrasing, every time he hears me say Stellaris, he wants to poke his eyes out because I call it Stellaris.
Yeah.
How do you say it, Joe?
Stellaris.
Jack?
Stellaris.
So I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It was going to happen eventually. It's taken 76 episodes, and eventually I'm wrong. That's
If
fine.
you had just told us this in private, we'd all be saying Stellaris on purpose.
No. Yeah, but where would be the fun in that? Where would be the fun in
We'd
that?
have lots of fun.
Okay.
Okay. I think we have covered it in very, very minute detail. Our favorite non-strategy games that we would recommend to strategy gamers. We want to thank everybody for listening. If you like what you hear, please recommend us to your friends. Hit your like buttons, hit your follow buttons. We've got more stuff coming. We're kicking around some ideas. Look for that. We've appreciated having you. Thanks for joining me, guys.